start. Chapter 2 is going to get us back into relations and functions. Keep in mind, most of the stuff that you're seeing in this is should be reviewed, because I know by teaching Algebra 1 for the last 17 years, this stuff is stuff that you cover in the second half, or actually some of this is even the first half of the year in Algebra 1. So make sure you're bringing this stuff back to memory. And also remember, if you're having any major issues with anything, that you might want to get some help, or consider that this just might not be where you want to be right now, because it could be a tough life if you don't understand some of the stuff in the review when everything really gets rolling. Other than that, every set of ordered pairs represents a relation. It's anything where two numbers are related is a relation. So 1, 3, 2, 5, 3, 7, 1, 8 would be a relation, whereas a function is a special type of relation in which every input relates or corresponds to only one output. We usually consider a calculator to be a function, because with a calculator, 2 plus 2 has to have the answer 4, because the output of this input has to be 4. If sometimes 2 plus 2 gives you 5, and sometimes 2 plus 2 gives you 7, and sometimes it gives you 4, then that's not a calculator you really want to use. So again, a function is going to be one output is the main idea for that, just making sure you understand. And this doesn't show up on your part there, but we'll talk about a problem like that in just a second. So the examples we're looking at where it says determine whether it represents a function, the key thing is that mentally you just need to know where every x is going to go. I know that 0 is going to go to 8. I know that 2 is going to go to 7. I know that 3 is going to go to 7. I know that 4 is going to go to 8. So each of these numbers has one location. So 0 knows to go to 8, 2 knows to go to 7, 3 knows to go to 7, 4 knows to go to 8. This is a function because everyone knows where to go. Now the second one is not, and you might want to write the reason so you understand whenever you see it. But in this case, we know that 5 goes to 13, but 4 could go to 9 and 4 could go to 11. So this is confusing. If 4 has two choices, we don't know where it's going to go. Again, this is your calculator situation. If you enter a 4 into this function, you might get a 9, you might get an 11. We don't know what's going to pop up, so that means that it's not a function, and so that's what you're looking for. So again, if it's confusing in terms of knowing where the number is going to go, then it is not a function. These next things, I hope they show up. They do. They didn't show up so well on your printout, so I kind of had to sketch over them. But these next ones are called mappings. And what this tells you is that 3 is going to go to 9, that 4 is going to go to 11, that 5 is going to go to 9. Again, do we know exactly where every number is going to go? Yes, 3 is going to go to 9. Yes, 4 is going to go to 11. Yes, 5 is going to go to 9. So yes, this is a function. Excuse me. But on the second or last one of these, we know that 1 goes to 4, but notice that 2 goes to 4 and 5. And because of this number, the answer is no, because again, it's confusing for the 2. We know where 1's going to go, we know where 5's going to go, but again, 2 has two different options, and that is bad. So anytime you get confused on where the number is going, that means that it cannot be a function. We also learned in Algebra 1 that the vertical line test is used to determine whether the graph represents the function. Copy these two graphs real fast if you don't mind. It's just like a S curve that doesn't go back on itself. Vertical line test is where I look for a vertical line that will cross more than once, and notice that this hits here, here, and here, which means that it fails the test, because there is a vertical line that goes through this image or this function of a graph. Now again, be careful when you draw this and make sure you don't cut back on yourself. Make sure you're still moving forward, but draw a S to kind of, or in shape, I guess, that looks kind of like this. And then notice that there is no vertical line I can draw that crosses this more than once in the whole graph. That means that this is a function, because that passes the test. I guess I should put passes, but you can do that. But again, the bottom line is, with the vertical line test, if you remember, if it hits the graph anywhere, if it finds any spot in the graph that it hits more than once, then it's not a function. Whereas with the function, you can't find anything at all that hits more than once, and that's what you're looking for. The last part of this chapter, which is an easy chapter for you, or sorry, easy section for you, just to make sure you kind of get into it before everything goes crazy. Function notation replaces your y with a f of x, a g of x, or anything else that's similar to that form. So again, the key thing about function notation is that it just kind of replaces the y equals and gives us something else. And so the regular form of what you would see is evaluate y equals 2x plus 1 when x equals 6. That's where you take the 6, plug it in for x. Function notation will just say if f of x equals 2x plus 1. Notice that's the same. Find f of 6. And that's still telling you to put 6 in for x, because notice that the only thing that changed is that your x turned into a 6. And again, this is read f of x if you don't remember that or never saw it. Again, if you never saw it, you might not be in the right class right now. But this is f of x equals 2x plus 1, and f of 6 means plug in a 6 for that x. So a couple quick examples before we talk about the chapter 2 plan. T of n is equal to 4n squared minus 8n, find t of negative 6. That means use a parentheses negative 6 on all of these problems. Keep in mind that this, and again as we get better, this minus sign is the weakest of all, which means that we can actually do a step over here and a step over there. We just can't do it if there's a multiplication or division. But remember that minus is going to mean we're going to have to separate these two things anyway. So I'll turn this into 4 parentheses 36 plus 48. And again, the plus 48 is because that's a negative 8 with a negative 6 next to it. 4 times 36, if you don't know, go on over here. That's 24, 12, 13, 14, which is 144 plus 48. And in the end, 192 is what you should end up with. Now, as you do get to use your calculator, I believe, on this next test, the reason I wanted to show you how to do this is because if you type this in the right way, squared button, by the way, is over by the 7 if you're looking for it. Or you could even use the caret, which also gives you a power, but we'll talk about that whenever it pops up. Minus 8 parentheses negative 6 gives me also a 192, which is good. And notice that as long as we type it the way that we are supposed to write it, it gives us the answer. Now, again, what I showed you the other day is that whenever you get those students who just want to be stubborn and type it in their way, 4 times negative 6 squared minus 8 times negative 6. Notice that your answer is different, and it's because of that part right there. But again, we'll get into all that as we continue going. G of p is equal to negative p squared plus p. Find g of negative 5. Again, what we're going to do here is simply take this and change it. Now the key here is to remember that it's negative p. So you bring down the negative, and then you put the negative 5 in there, and you go from here. Once again, this sign here really is separating, so we can kind of evaluate that. Negative 5 squared is 25, but keep in mind that 5, or this negative here, doesn't go away. That turns into a minus 5, giving us negative 30. Because we are out of chapter 1, you can start to kind of experiment with combining steps just to see if it works. I would suggest that you do that, because you don't really need to show 17 lines of work if you can kind of do a few steps at a time. And feel free to bring it up to me if you want to find out what to do. So again, checking this out, you get negative 5 squared plus parentheses negative 5, and you see that you get negative 30. But again, if you were to do negative 5 squared plus negative 5 without all that, you get a different answer, which is why I'm just trying to make sure you don't get lazy, get stubborn on me. Okay, your next 3 weeks, here it is. Might want to jot this down and keep this in mind, because that way you can stay ahead. This week you're doing 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4a. That means the first section of 2.4. Friday you have your first quiz, actually only quiz of the chapter. Monday of next week you do the second part of 2.4, 2.5, 2.7a, which again is the first part, and then you're going to take map tests on Thursday and Friday. The Monday after that we'll end off, or we'll wrap up 2.7, get to 2.8, do a review and a test. Now keep in mind, we had a lot of review days in the first chapter, but that was because, as I said, I wanted you to get the best chance to give yourself a shot. You notice that there's not a lot of time for review in here. There's not a lot of time for extra practice in here, which means you want to make sure you use your time wisely. You want to make sure you're doing what you need to. In my calculus, or one of my college classes, I learned that whenever I read ahead in my textbook, so I'm giving you this so you know where we're at. But what you can do for tomorrow, for example, tonight, is go home. You don't have to do any questions on 2.2, but go to section 2.2 and read some of the examples and see if you can follow the examples. So for example, I don't know if I have the book around. Let me see. But for example, if I'm looking at the book here, let me find something here. This is just a random example in 2.2. But if I can look at this random example and figure out what all this stuff is doing and what's going on and how they're setting the problem up, that means I probably understand some of the stuff in 2.2. So again, if I were you, knowing that there's a test coming up in 3 weeks, knowing that the pace might just be an issue this time around, I suggest that you make sure to kind of do your own research, use the books that I gave you at home, and try to become more of a student of this stuff, because again, your mastery level is not just going to come by showing up to class and doing it there. So you want to make sure you try to get ahead a little bit. Plus, as I said, you've got your whole map there, so you know exactly where we're going. But other than that, just make sure you use today to ask questions and get your work done. It should be an easy enough day, but just again, make sure you knock it out, because the only free homework chapter that you had was last chapter. Starting now, everything you do is an official homework grade. So get as much of the homework done as you can now, so that way your grade stays at 100% for your homework. Good luck.